In the last video, we looked at how very long distance UHF signals can be received using the height of the transmitter and receiver to one's advantage. Though the radio horizon is further than the visual horizon, in Joe's case, probably what happened was ducting combined with power and altitude. At higher altitude, radio waves tend to travel slightly faster. This causes the radio wave to be refracted or bent backwards towards the Earth, generally following its curvature. When the radio wave bounces or skips off the ionosphere, you get what's called a sky wave. Other factors cause space waves. That's just the wave traveling through the air to be refracted downward as well. Now, in that previous video, we discussed the ground or surface wave. This is the signal that follows along the ground to the troposphere, the lower atmosphere, to the receiver, the transmitter, or vice versa. The ground wave's propagation distance is dependent on the altitude of the receiver and the transmitter power, the wattage, and the sensitivity of the receiver. The signal eventually stops because of its interaction with the environment, usually the ground, which is sapping the energy of the signal away. And remember, radio waves are simply just energy. Now, another phenomenon is atmospheric ducting. Ducting allows radio signals to travel long distances due to being trapped by air masses of differing electrical conductivity. This is best understood as an inversion layer. An inversion layer is when layers of air of varying temperatures trap one another. Cold air, being denser than warm air, sinks below the layer of warm air, and if conditions are still, the layers don't mix. This is often most noticeable early in the morning when smoke, fog, or dew hangs low in clear skies. Inversions in the low atmosphere, the troposphere, create a radio wave reflective layer. It's not necessarily always an inversion layer, but can be weather fronts. This radio wave reflecting layer allows the radio waves to kind of go up from the transmitter, then bounce along between the boundary of the two air masses. That's called a duct. The radio signals are literally trapped, and they can pop out wherever there's mixture between the two air masses. Ducts can be forecasted, but they're roughly predictable, but the outcomes aren't necessarily predictable. The unpredictability in outcome can be a problem. You can't always rely on ducts to cooperate as you'd like for your communication needs. You're never going to get the range that you need when you need it. Same thing as you can't count on it being a sunny day whenever you want. Now, ducts can be used if you can read the weather, but without modern forecasting, it's going to be a little bit difficult in a grid down type situation. So you will have to know what you're doing. They can be worrisome because of this unpredictability, especially for electronic communication security. Somebody trying to minimize their electronic signature should be wary of ducts. The last thing you want is your signal radiating in all directions to get hoovered up by a duct and dumped out where the bad guys can hear it. I'll put up a graphic kind of showing the potential range that you can get, and anywhere within that circle it could drop out and somebody could hear your signal. You really don't want to get unlucky and have your signal go somewhere you totally didn't intend. That's why directional antennas in a contested environment are probably best. Now, did Joe get lucky? Probably. But what this means for someone preparing for SHTF is a lesson in intelligence, security, and communications. Under the right circumstances, you can communicate further than just line of sight with VHF, UHF radios. Ducting will allow you to pick up distance transmissions depending on the weather. But again, this can also work against you by dropping your signal to a bad guy like Dorothy's house into the land of Oz.